And we are out of water. Damn it. Oh, well. Good morning, everybody. It's your favorite ex-truck driver in the whole wide world. It's Bitcoin Ben. Here for the daily. What the pluck is going on in cryptocurrencies? My friends, it's all about the mining. It's all about the mining. Welcome to the show. It's Friday. It's the banana shirt. And it's the LINX event. The last LINX event of the year is tonight. The club. So, welcome everyone. All right, here we go. My friends, there's going to be an announcement in about a month or less. I don't know which one, but soon, relatively soon, about mining and who is launching a mining company, shall we say. Now, it is true that BlackRock owns part of 4 of the top 5 miners in the world. That is true. But what is bigger than BlackRock launching or owning part of each of those? What if a country, I don't know, say Argentina, say Russia, say Germany, say South Africa, what if the countries, started to mine the Bitcoin? Now, yesterday, there was a big meeting between a couple of people down in El Salvador. They shall remain nameless, so you have to do your own research. But this meeting, according to people they weren't in the room, but they were listening to what was going on in the room. There's going to be huge announcements coming from a certain country that was visiting El Salvador, the Savior. Ironic, isn't it? My friends, before the Bitcoin is officially the world's global reserve currency. Think of it like this. What was our last global reserve commodity? Oil, petrodollar. Now, in order to have the petrodollar, you had to have a large, hello? phones ringing here at the club, right? You had a lot of countries that were mining the oil, drilling for oil. So they could have a commodity that was valued at a global price. See where I'm going with this, folks? So let's just say hypothetically that a country like Qatar, if you don't know who Qatar is, look it up, right? Let's say a place like Dubai. Let's say a country like India. Let's say Saudi Arabia. Didn't we just have news a while back that Saudi Arabia and Iran made it legal to mine Bitcoin, and the government was allocating money for that? Isn't Saudi Arabia, isn't the OPEC, oil producing, I can't remember the rest of it, oil producing Arabian countries? I think that's it. Yes, please make sure you hit the like and subscribe to whatever platform you're watching. This is information you can only get here, folks. Only get here by a chubby ex-truck driver in a banana shirt. I guarantee you there's not another one out there. I'm very special. So, we have all these countries that are going to start producing, mining the Bitcoin, just like they started to produce and mine oil before oil was the globally traded commodity. Now, prior to that, all of the countries mined what? What did they mine? Not their business. They mined gold. Ah, that's right. And when they were, wait a second, when was the American gold rush? Mid 1800s? Prior to that, the American monetary system ran on Bueller silver. Now, follow me. Initially, America ran on silver, mostly because early in America's history, we relied on the Spanish. Anyone know the name? Dalar, that we call the dollar. Right? So initially, the American economy ran on silver. Then we switched to gold. Then we switched to petroleum. Now we're switching to pure energy. It aligns with our technological advances. I've told you guys in the past that the world currency was always linked with the most used commodity on a global basis. Now, here in America, in certain areas, we had multiple currencies, commodities. We had silver, we had tobacco, and in some areas, we even had hemp. Now, hemp, George Washington was a hemp farmer, by the way. These are all commodities, right? Now, what makes, ooh, right, sweet. So, oh, by the way, Bruce Porter, my good friend Bruce, will be at the Links event tonight here at the club, right? So we had many different. Thanks, Bruce. Go ahead and say it. All right. Do you guys know who Nick Spanos is? If you've been in Bitcoin, if you're a Bitcoin OG, everyone knows who Nick Spanos is. Look up the very first Bitcoin exchange on Wall Street. That's Nick. Nick's going to be visiting the club this weekend at the Founders Group event, which, by the way, you can still get tickets online version. Watch it live. We're going to have Bruce. We're going to have Nick. We're going to have me. We're going to have others. Just enjoy the show. Click the link under here. You can watch it live and record it. You get a recording with the live stream, FYI. Now, so as we moved from silver to gold to petroleum oil, that was what actually was the commodity that backed up the global currencies. My friends, the reason why we're in the Great Reset is, well, several reasons, but because for the first time in human history, energy, pure energy, is the number one commodity in the world. Pure electricity is the number one commodity in the world for the first time ever. That happened, I want to say 4 years ago, I think, where pure energy surpassed petroleum as the number one used commodity. So it only makes sense historically that the currency be a currency of energy. Bingo. Now, Okay, here we go. What Tom is talking about, Tesla-free energy, right? You, you know the hack of the new system. See, nobody's figured this out yet, but I have. Sorry, guys, I'm usually about 8 to 12 years ahead of humanity as a whole, right? The free hack, or shall we say, the counterfeiting of the future will be free energy. Why do you think part of it is putting smart meters on your house? See, as we advance, one of the biggest hacks in the world is going to be printing or creating the Bitcoin out of free energy. Then you think I'm freaking joking, folks. Give it about 6 years, and you'll start hearing a term. It's going to be something like dark energy or something like that, right? But it's going to be energy that has no cost to produce it. And when I say no cost, I don't mean volcanoes. I don't mean natural, um, physical oil, gasoline, none of that. I mean Tesla free energy. The officials will be looking for everybody, trying to track down that free energy. But they're not going to call it free energy. They're going to call it uh, something evil, like evil energy, or evil power, or like dark power. Some horseshit term that makes you think it's bad. Because, mark my words, folks, because they're going to say it's a threat to our global system. And that the people who are using this energy, they are terrorists against the global energy consortium. Oh, and please report your neighbor if you have suspicions that they have one of these evil energy generators. You'll get a reward. My friends, it's coming. Bingo. Yep. You can't be producing electricity, you ain't got a license for that. My friends, the world we're moving into is absolutely bad. Now, for those of you who want to know why my headline is Bitcoin going to $100,000 in the next 9 months, that, my friends, I don't think you let's think back. Let's go back. How far back? Way back to the last halving, 2018. Oh, yeah. Yep. No one at the corporate level was in the Bitcoin. None of the companies could hold it on their balance sheets. Think about, did you see the interview between Michael Saylor, I don't remember his name, weird looking guy. Look up the latest Michael Saylor interview. It's like 45 minutes long, maybe an hour. He explains how big a deal that this tax thing is and how big a deal the EFT is. Michael Saylor's like, yeah, it's going to take him about 9 months to a year to get this all lined up. The happening is approximately early next April. We have September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April. 8 months, folks. 8 months. 226 approximate days. I'm telling you, folks. I'm telling you. We're about to get crazy, folks. Yep, that was as Altcoin Daily, which I met the guys at Altcoin Daily at a event in LA. It was me, Ken Bozak, uh, Omar friggin' Bam. Do you guys remember Omar Bam? You may not, but yes, I am stuffy. My friends, this is cray cray, folks. It's why the tax or how it's why the accounting shift was now. They're timing it, folks. They're literally timing it. Mark my words. Mark my plucking words. January 1st, you're going to start seeing Bitcoin go absolutely shit. You know why? New tax year. Oh, my friends, shit's about to get crazy. That's why I tell you guys, 3 things you need to do. Numero uno that you can do today. Word from the sponsor.
Are you buying and selling cryptos on the same laptop that you're using to browse the internet, read your email, and visit social media sites? If so, you're exposing your cryptos to theft. Whenever you're online, you're at risk of getting hacked and having your identity stolen. How would you feel if someone stole all of your cryptos? What would that do to your finances? Guard your cryptos with a safe and secure laptop from CALIX Solutions. Each laptop is set up just for you and your cryptos, and then we walk you through exactly how it works. Don't risk the security of your cryptos. Order a crypto laptop from CALIX Solutions now to secure your crypto future. Learn more at calixsolutions.io.
I'm back. All right, so, number 1, get a crypto-only laptop. If I hear what we had a lady call us at CALIX. We had a lady call us at CALIX. She got hacked. Oh no, she didn't have one of our laptops. She had thought about getting one of our laptops. She had called us before, but never got one of our laptops. And they got her. Now she's thinking about getting one. Folks, number 1, get a CALIX laptop. Number 2, click the link under here and open an account at Caleb and Brown. You use my link and you save like 30% on their purchase charge or whatever the hell that is. But they're in Australia. That's the key, folks. Here in America, they are trying to limit how much you can get on the exchanges. They're trying to limit. Have you tried? Folks, I've had a Cash App account for years. My normal monthly limit for buying Bitcoin is about 25 grand. The last 2 months, the most I can buy at one time, $500 a week. That's odd. So, hence Caleb and Brown. Caleb and Brown will get you your Bitcoin. It's a white glove service. They just click the link and you'll figure it out. Right. ever. And Edward, same thing happened to me at Coinbase. Yep, they limit the amount you can buy so you can't push the price up. This is all manipulated, folks. Who owns the majority of Coinbase now? One hint. It starts with black, ends with rock. Then number 3, everyone on YouTube, you're about to go bye-bye. But like and subscribe before you go bye-bye. Because the rest of the show will get a little woo-woo. Because we have Woo-Woo Con next weekend here at the club. If you want Woo-Woo Con tickets, they're right under here. Come on down to Florida for a few days. Hang out with Bitcoin Ben at WooWooCon. Okay, now, everyone on YouTube, bye-bye. Everyone else, join us for the next hour or so. Maybe not that long. I got a ton to do. We have the Links event tonight here at the club. If you're on the private server, and if you saw the show yesterday, right, I'm going to show you graphically what I was talking about, where the earth creates the oil inside the earth with the frequencies of the sun. I'm going to lay it out, folks. YouTube. Oh, wait. I almost forgot. They'd kick my ass. As you guys know, if you purchase a Liberty laptop, every month we give away a free laptop. This month's winner of the free laptop is Lance Volstry. Lance Volstry. Congratulations, brother. We will be reaching out to you and hooking you up with your free laptop. So, now, if you want to find out more information on how to get registered and enter into winning the free laptop, call 702-845-8276. Send a text or call. YouTube, you go bye-bye. You guys watching on YouTube, click the link, join the Substack. There's a 20% off discount on Substack to the private server. Click the link. See you guys on the private server right now. Actually, I lied. We're not on the private server yet. And I don't think we're actually going to get on because I have so much to freaking do. But here we go. All right. Everyone else watching. Oh, excuse me. I'm all clogged up, folks. I'm telling you. This old age is just, it is kicking my ass. All right. Now, yesterday, I talked about how the sun's frequency, the radiation from the sun creates life and oil and other things. Now, I'm going to test you guys, right? I'm going to test you guys on how old you are. Does anyone remember the movie Swamp? Do you guys remember a movie called Swamp Thing? Where the guy was green and his arm got chopped off and it grew back. Yes. All right. What does radiation do? Radiation, right? Radiation manipulates DNA, right? What turned Swamp Thing into Swamp Thing? Now, I know I'm using a movie reference, but it's accurate. When we hear of toxic radiation was found in a creek by the school, the reason we know that is we got froggies with 4 eyes. All right? Radiation manipulates the DNA and shuts off the switches. Remember the switches we talked about yesterday on the private server hour? The switches of your DNA, radiation is what flips the switch. The switch is flipped using frequency, right? When the radiation hits the DNA and flips a switch, it causes froggies to grow extra eyes. It causes fish to have 2 heads. Well, wait a second. If radiation manipulates DNA, I get it. What do you think creates life? Radiation. What fluid do you have to be in to create life? Water. Everyone putting this together yet? You know, back in the old days, my friends, back in ancient history, now I'm going off the sand scripts here, folks. Actually, I'm trying to learn how to read Sanscripts. Yes, welcome to my life. While everyone else is hooked on phonics to learn how to speak a language of romance, Bitcoin Ben's trying to learn how to read Sanskrit. my life is interesting. Now, because there is in the Old Testament, we're talking the Torah, right? There are descriptions of creatures, shall we say, that lived in puddles of water, right? And that their laboratory was in water. Oh my God, I could go down a rabbit hole with you guys, but I won't, not yet. Still gotta educate you guys on how the earth gets bigger. Wow. I might be coming down with something, folks. I don't usually sneeze. Wow. Is everyone's ears okay? Because that could have been loud. All right. We're going to watch a video, guys, and I'm going to stop it in several different places and show you what I mean. Ready?
Of how the planets of the solar system move through the universe in this cool helix. But not only are these misleading, Earth's real motion, your real motion through the universe, is way more complicated and way more interesting. This video of the planets moving in a corkscrew pattern isn't exactly wrong, but it's often presented in the most misleading sense by suggesting that the old idea of planets orbiting the sun is wrong and that we really move in a cool vortex. This is misleading because it suggests that one frame of reference, the one where we see this helix, is fundamentally better than any others. Today,
Okay. One of the most important parts of this, he just said, frame of reference. This, prior to Albert, I'm a fucking retard, Einstein's theory of relativity, which was the lie that sent us into this whole science actually based on physics and not on pure energy bullshit. Prior to that, right? Prior to Albert Einstein's theory of relativity horseshit, there was Galileo's relativity. Galileo's relativity was correct. But the scientific community couldn't let that down. The American people were starting to get educated. The majority of the Americans, the majority of the people on Earth were learning how to what? Read. Oh no. If they can read, we have to be able to control what they read. Has anyone here ever heard of the Galilean theory of relativity? Raise your hand. Nobody? Yeah, you know why? They don't teach it. They teach E equals MC squared. We made it all nice and pretty. Yeah, E equals MC squared is a bunch of fucking bullshit. Galileo's relativity is correct. Now, this guy's going to explain and how listen to how he phrases it. Well, although this point of reference, which is the same as relativity, point of reference means relativity. Listen to what he says. Although this point of reference, which he's talking about, E equals MC squared, horse shit, is kind of accurate-ish. Really, the more accurate is Galileo's. Ah, what? Let's see. All of the real scientists know this, but they won't teach you this. I digress. Here we go.
This video of the planets moving in a corkscrew pattern isn't exactly wrong, but it's
I'm going to add up here. Did you hear him say, this image of this isn't exactly wrong?
often presented in the most misleading sense by suggesting that the old idea of planets orbiting the sun is wrong and that we really move in a cool vortex. This is misleading because it suggests that one frame of reference, the one
Frame of reference, relativity.
idea of planets orbiting the sun is wrong and that we really move in a cool vortex. This is misleading because it suggests that one frame of reference, the one where we see this helix, is fundamentally better than any others. Today, I'm going to say a word or two against this sort of reference frame chauvinism and then talk about how Earth really moves through the universe, which involves a surprising amount of awesome astrophysics. To start, I want you to imagine that you're in a ship, moving steadily on a perfectly smooth ocean in an enclosed cabin. The portals are closed, so there's no way you can tell how fast you're moving, or even that you're moving at all. This is the thought experiment that Galileo Galilei described in his 1632 book, Dialogue Concerning the Two Chief World Systems, to express what we now call Galilean relativity. It's the idea that there's
Wait a second. What? So this guy just said, let me rephrase it. The first graph I showed you isn't exactly wrong, but it is. How the Earth really moves through space is more aligned with Galilean relativity than it is with Einstein's theory of relativity, because Einstein's theory of relativity is bullshit. Continue to watch.
There's no single best frame of reference from which to define the concept of stillness. There's no absolute rest frame. All non-accelerating frames, also called inertial frames, can be taken as motionless as far as the laws of physics are concerned. So the view of the solar system tracing this helix through space is a valid frame of reference. But you know what else is a valid frame of reference? This one, where the planets orbit the sun just like you were always taught. At least
My friends, this here is how they lie to you without lying to you. This, and all right, I'm let's just watch the whole video, and I hope you guys understand what he says. You all are smart. You'll figure it out. Because if I go through every single wrong or every single link with what I'm talking about, we'll be here all day.
at least on timescales of less than a few million years. Okay, meme debunking achieved. Let's move on to the interesting astrophysics and talk about how Earth is really moving and what we can learn from that. Given this Galilean relativity of motion, is it even meaningful to say how the Earth is moving? Well, there may be no such thing as a single fundamental definition of motionlessness, but that doesn't mean that all reference frames are equal. We choose a reference frame or a rest frame that's most useful for the question at hand. For example, if your brain is subconsciously computing the trajectory of a ball flying through the air so you can catch it, you're not going to take into account the fact that the surface of the Earth is moving at 1,000 kilometers per hour or so due to its rotation. You can treat your patch of the Earth's surface as inertial for that calculation. If NASA wants to send a robot to Mars, it probably doesn't want to use the frame of reference of Cape Canaveral or even of the Earth's center to do its celestial mechanics. It uses an inertial frame of reference of the solar system. But NASA gets to ignore the fact that the sun is racing around the galaxy at 230 kilometers per second. So if we want to answer the question, how is the Earth really moving, we need to choose useful frames of reference. Let's start with the frame of reference of our familiar descriptions of the motion of the planets, one roughly fixed to the sun. One thing is inaccurate about this depiction, and that's the idea that the planets are orbiting the sun while the sun is fixed relative to the planets. The planets tug on the sun just as it tugs on the planets, causing the sun to move. The best reference frame to describe the motions within the solar system is that of the barycenter, the center of mass of all of the objects in the solar system. This is the real point that everything in the solar system is orbiting. From the reference frame of the barycenter, the sun executes this complex pirouette, mostly in response to the outweighted gravitational pulls of Jupiter and Saturn. The solar system's barycenter is sometimes beneath the sun's surface, but when the two giant planets are even vaguely lined up, it can be quite a way outside the sun. So, how does this affect Earth's orbit? The barycenter's motion is slower than Earth's orbit, so this causes Earth's elliptical orbit to just stretch and squish very slightly on the timescale of Jupiter and Saturn's years, 5 and 12 Earth years respectively. And the pull of the other planets also causes the orientation of that ellipse to rotate around the Sun over thousands of years. We talked about that effect in detail and its connection to ice ages when we discussed the Milankovitch cycles. So that's Earth's motion within the solar system, complicated, but not as complicated as its motion through the galaxy. That galactic motion is also much harder to figure out. In the solar system, there are relatively few bodies whose gravity you need to account for, and anyway, the gravity is massively dominated by the Sun. The source of the Milky Way's gravitational field isn't dominated by any one object. Everything orbits in the sum gravitational fields of everything else. That makes things tricky, but it also means that we can learn an enormous amount about our galaxy's complex structure just by tracking the motion of its constituents. The solar system is moving at about 230 kilometers per second relative to the center of the Milky Way, give or take. That means a single orbit takes almost 230 million years. The last time the Earth was on this side of the galaxy, dinosaurs wandered Pangaea and trilobites had just gone extinct. To describe the Sun's motion through the galaxy, we need to choose a new frame of reference. Now, we could choose the center of the galaxy, but that's actually very difficult to pinpoint. Instead, we tend to describe the Sun's complicated motion relative to a much simpler hypothetical orbit. We call that the local standard of rest. The LSR is the reference frame that the Sun would have if it were executing a perfectly circular orbit from its current position. This allows us to describe how not circular the Sun's orbit is. There's also a very good physical motivation for this. Almost every star in the Milky Way disk starts in an orbit that's nearly circular. That's because the clouds of gas which stars form from get nudged into circular orbits while they're still clouds due to friction with other gas. Friction that stars don't experience. After a star forms in the same circular orbit as its birth cloud, it gradually gets nudged off that orbit by a myriad of gravitational kicks from other objects in the Milky Way. Determining the speed of the Sun with respect to the LSR is just a matter of finding lots of new young stars that formed recently and are still in their birth orbits, and taking an average of how they are moving relative to us. From these measurements, we find that the Sun is going a little bit faster than it should be for a perfectly circular orbit. Relative to the local standard of rest, the Sun is drifting forwards at about 5 kilometers per second. It's also drifting inwards towards the galactic center at about 8 kilometers per second and moving up and out of the disk at 7 kilometers per second. This tiny, peculiar motion, as it's called, has enormous consequences for the path that the Sun and the solar system take through the galaxy. For starters, this slow drift towards the galactic center doesn't mean we're going to fall into the supermassive black hole at Sagittarius A star. The Sun is trying to execute a slightly elliptical orbit around the galaxy, and currently it's moving closer to the galactic center. But the Milky Way's mass is spread out through the entire galaxy, rather than concentrated in the center, like in the solar system. That means simple elliptical orbits aren't possible. Instead, the Sun traces out this pretty flower pattern over many orbits. Geometrically, we call it epicyclic, the shape that a smaller wheel makes when rolling on a bigger wheel. The slight upward motion of the Sun is perhaps even cooler and certainly quite a bit more impactful. I already mentioned that we're moving up and out of the galactic disk at around 7 kilometers per second. We are currently a few dozen light years above the middle of the disk, although it's actually hard to know where the center of the galactic disk is. We're not in danger of escaping the galaxy. With more matter below us than above us, the disk's gravity is slowing our upwards motion. In a few million years, we'll have clawed our way out to around 300 light years above the disk's center before our upwards motion slows to a halt and we begin to fall back in. We'll plummet through the disk, overshoot, and pop out through the other side. We execute one of these graceful leaps roughly once every 60 million years, so a few times per galactic orbit. This vertical oscillation is more than just a curiosity. Some astronomers think it could be directly tied to mass extinctions on the Earth. You know, the dinosaurs went extinct 60 million years ago. The center of the disk is a more dangerous place for the solar system due to the higher density of stars. It puts us at a bigger risk of a nearby supernova or close encounters with other massive objects that could destabilize debris in the outer solar system that could then impact the Earth. But that's a story for another time. This bouncing motion of the sun and the other stars is also a useful scientific tool. It gives us a way to test different theories of the mysterious dark matter, which is invisible and has only been detected by its strong gravitational influence. There are many different models for what type of particle or object dark matter is made up of. And these models make different predictions for how dark matter interacts with itself. In the more mainstream models, it interacts with itself almost not at all, which means it stays very puffy and spread out. But some dark matter candidates might experience very weak self-interactions, resulting in a force similar to friction and enabling dark matter to accumulate in the disk of the galaxy that would lead to a more massive disk than the case where dark matter is more spread out. So,
I'm going to replay what he just said, and then I'm going to explain.
Then impact the Earth, but that's a story for another time. This bouncing motion of the sun and the other stars is also a useful scientific tool. It gives us a way to test different theories of the mysterious dark matter, which is
Dark matter is harmonics. It isn't matter. It isn't physical. It's harmonics. It's the frequencies blending together. The frequencies blending together cause friction. The friction, as he says, the friction goes into, is located at the center of the universe. Just like the friction of the frequencies of the sun are at the center of the earth, creating mass. Listen to what he says.
is invisible and has only been detected by its strong gravitational influence. There are many different models for what type of particle or object dark matter is made up of. And these models make different predictions for how dark matter interacts with itself. In the more mainstream models, it interacts with itself almost not at all, which means it stays very puffy and spread out. But some dark matter candidates might experience very weak self-interactions, resulting in a force similar to friction and
similar to friction, except at a frequency level.
enabling dark matter to accumulate in the disk of the galaxy that would lead to a more massive disk than the case where dark matter is more spread out. So, by weighing the disk, we can potentially test these types of dark matter models. And we can do that by looking at the vertical oscillations of stars. That's because the mass of the disk determines how fast stars can rise in these vertical oscillations. Measuring the vertical components of speeds and the maximum heights for nearby stars has so far told us that there is no evidence of any extra density of dark matter in the disk, which supports non-interacting dark matter models. Okay, now we know how the sun moves through the galaxy. What about the solar system as a whole? The plane of the planet's orbits, also called the ecliptic plane, is tilted by about 60 degrees. That's why we see this sort of squished corkscrew pattern as the planets move through the galaxy. The orbits of the planets cause them to spend half their year ahead of the Sun in the galactic orbit, while they lag behind it during the other half. In the case of the Earth, it's the furthest ahead of the Sun in September, while in March it's the farthest behind. Also, for half the year, Earth is moving in the same direction as the Sun through the galaxy, so their velocities add together, with the maximum speed in June. While in the other half of the year, we're moving backwards relative to the Sun's motion, so in December, Earth's galactic motion is the slowest. This change in Earth's galactic speed also happens to be useful for testing, guess what? Dark matter models. If dark matter is some exotic particle, then it must be passing through the Earth as we move through the galaxy. And the faster we move, the more dark matter we should sweep through, in the same way that more rain hits your windshield the faster you drive. Dark matter experiments should see more events in June compared to December. In fact, physicists at the DAM experiment in Gran Sasso in Italy actually
Okay. Notice how he said the dark matter, remember, which causes friction, which the dark matter is frequency harmony. The dark matter, when the Earth is behind the Sun, not in front of the Sun, means that, here, let me play it again.
Sun's motion, so in December, Earth's galactic motion is the slowest. This change in Earth's galactic speed also happens to be useful for testing, guess what? Dark matter models. If dark matter is some exotic particle, then it must be passing through the Earth as we move through the galaxy. And the faster we move, the more dark matter we should sweep through, in the same way that more rain.
Remember, dark matter creates matter. That's why they originally called it antimatter. It's the frequencies. He's calling it an exotic particle. It's not an exotic particle. It's a frequency.
And hits your windshield the faster you drive. Dark matter experiments should see more events in June compared to December. In fact, physicists at the
Now, he said, dark matter, we should see more events in examples in June than we do December. Right? I'll play it one more time.
move through the galaxy. And the faster we move, the more dark matter we should sweep through, in the same way.
So the faster we move through space, the more frequencies should hit us.
That more rain hits your windshield the faster you drive. Dark matter experiments should see more events in June compared to December.
More events in June than we see in December.
In fact, physicists at the DAM experiment in
Now, let me explain the events that the dark matter, the frequencies create is life, growth. That's what we call spring and summer. Dark matter is the frequencies of life. Dark matter is the frequency of life. That's why this guy can't even fucking figure this out. Idiots. That the event that these dumbass and how ironically the place that they're doing this scientific study is actually called the dumb study. I'm not shitting you. Listen, it's literally called the because July is when corn's growing its fastest. Right? It's when the planting is going on at its fastest. It's literally called the dumb. That's how it's pronounced. The dumb experiment. Yes, Southern Hemisphere. That's the point of reference he's using in this example. Or, I'm sorry, the Northern Hemisphere, our hemisphere here. Right? This is why I get so frustrated. Because, and maybe it's just me, this is the shit I watch, folks. Well, welcome to my life. The dark matter is the frequency of life. It's called harmony, harmonics. See the shape of this? See how this goes up and down, up and down, up and down. That's a frequency signal. Frequency is movement. Right. Some frequencies are big, some frequencies are small. But all frequencies interact with each other. Right? Now,
So-called vortex motion. Currently, the ecliptic is almost face-on compared to the sun's orbital motion, so the corkscrew is valid. But due to conservation of angular momentum, the plane of the solar system won't turn with the sun's orbit. After a quarter of a galactic orbit, the ecliptic plane will be edge-on. The solar system will be like a great wheel rolling in the direction of the sun's orbit. We now have a picture of how the solar system really moves through the galaxy. But how do we move through the universe as a whole? The Milky Way is pulled by the gravitational fields of the masses around it. We're racing towards the Andromeda Galaxy at a couple of hundred kilometers per second, while our entire local group, Andromeda, the Milky Way, and the other little galaxies around us, are being pulled at several hundred kilometers per second towards a mysterious overdensity in the clustering of galaxies called the Great Attractor. At this point, it becomes really tricky to define a single frame of reference.
I guarantee I am the only person watching or participating in this that has ever heard of the Great Attractor. As above, so below, my friends. Look at the Great Attractor. Now, mind you, over here to the right is the Milky Way and local group. They're all being sucked into the Great Attractor. Do you know what the Great Attractor is? That's for another show, folks. You guys ain't ready for that yet.
Are being pulled at several hundred kilometers per second towards a mysterious overdensity in the clustering of galaxies called the Great Attractor. At this point, it becomes really tricky to define a single frame of reference to precisely define our relative velocity in the universe. Except, we do have one last recourse, a reference frame that was granted to us by the earliest epochs of the universe. That's the reference frame of the cosmic microwave background. This is the faint radio wavelength light that was emitted by the hot hydrogen that filled the universe before the first stars were born. Those hydrogen atoms were moving in all different directions, but they did have an average velocity. If you were there, near the beginning of the universe, and you were moving at the average velocity of those atoms, then the light produced by those atoms would look the same in all directions. However, if you had any different velocity, then the light hitting you from ahead of your motion would be a bit more energetic, a bit bluer. Light hitting you from behind would be less energetic or more red. Well, those atoms are mostly in stars now, but the light that they produce is still everywhere. The cosmic microwave background defines a rest frame for the universe, and we can check our reference frame compared to it. It turns out that we are hurtling at 368 plus or minus 2 kilometers per second relative to the cosmic rest frame. We've been tugged from the cosmic average velocity by vast overdensities of galaxies hundreds of millions of light years away. So, that is how you are currently moving through the universe. It's wildly dizzying in all but the reference frame of your own body. At the most extreme, you are wheeling in a squished corkscrew that shifts to a rolling wheel as it dips above and below the galactic disk, tracing flower petals around the Milky Way, which in turn form a galactic scale helix, the sum total of all of our wheeling dance across space-time. In our last episode, we explored the possibility that
Okay, if you guys may want to rewind and watch this again to get it off, but this next clip, I'm just going to let it play through, and I'm going to let it sink in. Then we're going to talk about it on Monday, because you're going to need the whole weekend for this one.
life could be based on silicon rather than carbon. I concluded that carbon is time. In our last episode, we explored the possibility that life could be based on silicon rather than carbon. I concluded that carbon is way better than silicon for life, but there was some deep discussion on the topic in the comments. Apple Tank 8 suggests exploring whether there's a form of photosynthesis or chemosynthesis that can break up silicon dioxide, noting that if even the bottom of the food chain doesn't work, then nothing else will work either. This is an excellent insight and is one of the key reasons why silicon-based life may well be impossible. In fact, there is no known enzyme capable of breaking the silicon dioxide molecule. That means that the end of the silicon-based chemical pathway may really be a dead end. Silica may simply be too stable, and so silicon is too easily locked out of circulation for any evolutionarily plausible biochemistry. Compare that to carbon dioxide, which is relatively easily broken to get the carbon back into circulation. Perhaps there are novel ways to release the silicon from silicon dioxide that we haven't thought of yet, but there's no question that the carbon base is a much easier path to life, and so will outcompete silicon in most circumstances. Father Dragon Cal asks, why not boron or nitrogen-based life as well? Well, the main reason is simply that boron and nitrogen don't form long molecular chains with themselves, so they can't form scaffolding structures for a wide variety of molecules. Sulfur can form long 1D chains with itself, but can't append multiple molecules due to it only having two covalent bonds. Carbon and silicon can form 1D and 2D structures that append multiple other atoms. But of these, only carbon has the various properties that make it ideal for life, all the stuff that we talked about in that episode. Dintari asks whether we've considered life that isn't at all similar to Earth life. Well, the answer is yes, but there's a reason we tend to focus on at least chemical life. Science fiction is full of other ideas, from the sentient oceans in Solaris to nuclear life on neutron stars in Robert Forward's Dragon's Egg. But scientists have also tried to come up with non-chemical bases for life, like the self-sustaining data structures in crystals or magnetic monopoles on cosmic strings inside stars. We covered that one once. Or dust particles suspended in a plasma. But everything I've ever heard of kind of feels like a stretch. All of it seems way harder than good old chemical and preferably carbon-based life. You know what? Let me tell you what I really think about this. The apparent fine-tuning of this universe strongly suggests to me that there is a multiverse of some type or other, and the vast majority of universes are uninhabitable. We naturally observe a universe that happens to have the qualities to make at least one form of life possible. But the chance for a given universe to be tuned so finely that multiple forms of life are possible.
Notice that he used the word tuned, like frequency. See, this guy here, this guy's a genius, but he's an educated genius. He's not capable of thinking in reverse in a creative way. He cannot. He lives in the world of atoms. He lives in the world of physics. And that's why he can't wrap his head around all of this. But he uses the English terms that give him the results he sees, but he doesn't apply the words he even uses to the original creator of life, which is frequencies. Are just harmonic frequencies of energy.
Is very close to zero. So yeah, other forms of life probably exist out there, but out there probably means several universes away. Many people noticed that the molecule that we showed for nitroglycerin was actually TNT. And as Benedictal points out, these two are definitely not the same thing, despite the misinformation spread by AC/DC, Akadaka, to their friends and compatriots. It's incredibly impressive that there are so many of you that can immediately distinguish these molecules at a glance.
All right. DACA. I guarantee no one has heard of the organization called ACA DACA. All right. Now, this goes with the conversation. I don't know. I think it was Edward yesterday. I think it was Edward that was actually talking about hydrogen, right? And how hydrogen is the number one molecule. Right? Now, here's an example of what I was talking about with Edward yesterday. Right? TNT is supposedly a molecule, right? In the molecule graph, not nitroglycerin. Right? Despite what we've heard from the great chemist of Akadaka, they are different substances. Bingo. Akadaka is the scientific group that came up with the table of elements. The elemental table was created by Akadaka. Right. I'm sorry to throw this all at you, but even whoever this guy is, whoever wrote this in the chat is right. That I'm afraid that TNT are truly that word in the picture, in the graph, not nitroglycerin, despite what we've heard from the great chemist Daka. They are different substances. Notice he doesn't call them molecules, because Akadaka created the table of elements. The elemental table was created by Akadaka, which originates out of the London School of Economics, right? Akadaka is a group. 7 of the 9 original members of Akadaka, out of the School of Economics in London. 7 out of the, I think 9, were the founding members of the Fabian Socialist Society. That's when I do a mic drop. So let's think about this. The entity created the elemental table, a chart, was called Akadaka. That group was formed at the London School of Economics. 8 or 7 out of the 9 original members of Akadaka were the founding members of the Fabian Socialist Society that split into the progressive movement and the communist movement. The progressive movement attacked America and Europe. The communist movement attacked the Germanic and the Middle Eastern in World War I. They were the revolutionaries in the Ukraine. They were the communist revolutionaries. You see how it's all linked together. They corrupted the science before they corrupted the societies, so they could miseducate, misinform the societies they were creating. You got it now? That's why yesterday, Edward, when he said, well, the number one element in the elemental chart is my brain. Hang on. Help me out, chat. My brain just froze for a second. Hydrogen, right? No. No. Hydrogen is not an element. Just like this guy points out that nitroglycerin is not an element, and neither is TNT. Right? Yes. Khazarian scientists at Akadaka, they corrupted the science so they can corrupt the mind of the people. So they can, and that's what Akadaka, ACDC, it's why Tesla called his alternating current and direct current It's why he called it alternating current and labeled the other one direct current. It was a poke at a group called Akadaka. He was making fun of them. That's where AC/DC comes from. It was Tesla making a joke about the people at the London School of Economics See how it's all fitting together, folks? That looks like we just lost Rumble. See, this is the real shit that they don't want you to know, folks. When I tell you that I've read original writings, I don't read history books. My mind is not confused with the illusion. It's why when I explain this to people, it's so hard for them to understand because their mind is confused with the illusion of the indoctrination. My mind was never indoctrinated. So I read the original writings. I have a clear picture of what really happened. That's why I can explain it so well. Now, did I mention next week is Woo Woo Con? I'm going to talk about this at Woo Woo Con. Click the link under here. Watch Woo Woo Con live next weekend. Click the link. Let me play the rest of this.
Not the same thing, despite the misinformation spread by AC/DC, Akadaka, to their friends and compatriots. It's incredibly impressive that there are so many of you that can immediately distinguish these molecules at a glance. As you can tell, I'm not in that elite group. I do apologize and will try to memorize more chemical structures for the future.
All right, hang on. I want to point out something. Watch what he says at the end. That this is all new information to him. Like he doesn't know what I know. So what does he say at the end of it?
I do apologize and will try to memorize more chemical structures.
Wait, he'll try to what?
Distinguish these molecules at a glance. As you can tell, I'm not in that elite group. I do apologize and will try to memorize more.
He'll try to memorize. He'll try to memorize, not think, memorize what he's taught. He will try to mimic, memorize, mimic what he's taught. Welcome to the deepest rabbit hole of all the rabbit holes, my friends. This is why I get kicked off of platforms. This is why I was one of the original people kicked off of YouTube. Right? When those who are not there yet actually awaken, they will feel like they got hit with a sledgehammer. Absolutely. They're literally not going to know what world they live in. That's why I say their minds are going to pop. They won't be able to even comprehend the reality. Randy, I love you. Just did a little searching on carbon rings. I didn't know C60 is called Buckminster Fuller. Who's one of Cliff High's favorite guys? Buckminster. My friends, stick with me and Cliff. It's going to be a wild ride. Everybody, join under it. You want more of this shit on the mostly private? Well, we're usually on all private server at this point, but I didn't jump over. Maybe that's why Rumble shut off. They're like, holy shit, he's talking about that. Even Rumble's algorithm's like, whoa, oh, it just happened again. You think I'm bullshitting? Watch this. Like, sorry for the weirdness, guys. But here, let me remove my brand here. Oh, wait, wrong one. Let me remove my brand. All right. You see at the upper, oh, it just went back on. Damn it. All right. Rumble was just pink. If you rewind it up here, the right-hand side of the video, the R, that's for Rumble. If you rewind the video, all right, you'll see that it was pink a while ago. That's because Rumble broke the feed. All right, now let me stop streaming. There we go. Friends, this is the shit that they don't want out. But it is. And I'm letting it out. Everyone, have a great day. I will see you Monday. Unless you want to click the link under here and come to the founders or watch the founders group weekend. It's on Saturday and Sunday. This weekend, tomorrow and Sunday. There's a link under here that you can watch it all live. Right? Love you guys. See you either tomorrow or Monday. And join the Substack. Bye, guys.